Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is GN. Yo, welcome to I guess it's the Funker Tactical podcast. It's also the Aperture Fight focused podcast. Today, I got a treat, kind of a rush thing. I was able to get some time with the CEO of Chimera Firearms Training. I'm going to play a short clip for you guys here just to kind of give you a primer of some of the cool stuff we're going to be talking about. And I'll bring him in just a second. All right, so check this out, guys.
Yeah, that works. Now, I can't see his card or his name.
Walk your back. Yeah, walk it. So that is the center line.
Parking lot on your left. You got it.
Red long.
Ryan has got a gun. Gun. My side. I'm up. They're my side. All right, call it in.
What? That was really cool. All right. So without further ado, here's our guest for today. We have Taylor. Taylor, how's it going?
Hey, it's a great day. Thank you so much for having me on here.
No problem. So yeah, this is really exciting stuff. It feels like the future has arrived. Can you tell us a little bit about exactly what is Chimera XR? What are your goals, and where do you see the nature of training for law enforcement in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, for sure. So Chimera XR, we help law enforcement and military train anywhere, anytime through high quality simulation products. We do that primarily with the Oculus Quest virtual reality headset right now, but we're excited about the possibility of other technologies assisting in this in the future, like augmented reality, and who knows, there probably will be something else in 10 years that'll replace all of these things. But for now, our goals are to make simulation tools which are useful, effective, but also deployable and mobile, and things that, as a member of the military myself, that I could take if I was going on deployment, I could take if I was going to the range, or for law enforcement that they could use to connect amongst each other as well. Something that we're really conscious of is, law enforcement has been under a lot of scrutiny recently, and
Yes,
they face a crazy challenge. Really, they face a really, really big challenge, which is they get all kinds of different interactions all day at every level of the spectrum, but they really don't get the access to training that they deserve. And very few departments can really provide the accessibility, because a lot of the hardest things to train, like active shooter response, any kind of structure-based work, they're very intensive, like financially and personnel intensive items to train. So simulation can help because it provides something that's accessible, but still very realistic, and in some cases can replicate scenarios that otherwise couldn't be trained.
all right, I'm going to play a quick clip here all about scaling instructor resources, which is kind of what you're talking about, right? So whether it's scaling instructor resources or just cost cutting as far as having to be in a physical location and all the things that's involved with that. And then after I play this clip, I want to talk about the limitations of VR. What can't it do? All right. So just stand by, guys. Enjoy this video. This is all about scaling technology. You might recognize the speaker here, William Petty, the VCQB guy, super solid dude. All right, let me just go play this.
Your time is precious. What if every student walked on the line for non-lethal training ammo or live fire sessions with a rehearsed understanding of performance expectations? With the Mythos VR program, your instructor resources can be magnified and scaled in a way we never could before. You can set up recordings of your demonstrations in VR for students to prime themselves with in order to have better, smoother classes for NLTA and live fire. Supplement your existing NLTA and live fire plans with the Chimera XR system and get your students to their goals sooner, safer.
You okay, Taylor? I'm good. Do you have any other occupants inside the car? All right, let's go ahead and call. 394, shots fired. We've got a subject down. Go ahead and start rescuing additional units.
Visit chimeraxr.com for more information.
All right, Taylor. So in that clip, you said supplement NLTA and live fire training. You didn't use replace. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think it would be irresponsible to say that simulation will completely replace or eclipse live anything, live drilling in hand-to-hand combatives, live fire, non-lethal training ammo with live actors, because at least up to this point, even as someone who loves simulation and technology and nerds out about it all the time, there is no replacing what you get from actual recoil from an actual gun. There's no replacing the stimulus that you've provided, Paulo, on countless occasions in training to students in our classes that showed how pre-assault indicators and cues are, they're micro moments, micro expressions that it's very, very difficult to say simulation can accurately enough replace right now. In the future, it may be possible that a lot of these things are very, very accurately represented, and there are indications of that with Unreal Engine's MetaHumans project, which is essentially extremely realistic facial expressions. But it still comes down to what our responsibility is to our end user, which we feel very strongly is that this is a tool that fits in and supplements and fills a gap that exists where you can't always get to the range, and you may not always get access to NLTA, and you definitely don't always get access to a really good actor, right? So it's paramount to not let the lack of access to those things stop you from training altogether.
Right. One of the things that I noted from William Petty was that he thinks this kind of technology is really, really important for things like priming students ahead of those things, right? Because in this way, you can get a lot of information downloaded onto a group of students and have them run through drills and exercises way ahead of NLTA or live fire training. And that in and of itself can serve a great benefit to a department that may have to either stagger their training or they're just, they're trying to find better ways other than having a PDF document or some bulletin to know what upcoming changes might be to, standard operating procedures, right? So,
yeah,
okay,
that's very common.
It is a common thing. All right, I know you're short on time, so I'm trying to rifle through as many things about this Chimera XR thing. What about the space, right? Like how much space? Because we just saw in that video, they're running through a warehouse at speed. I mean, that's got to be like, first of all, a really crazy experience for the participant to be running full on and not to actually be seeing the environment around you. That says a lot about the trust that these people have in the technology itself. Because there were pillars there they could have just run into. So talk to us about the requirements of the actual physical space for the virtual technology training, this Chimera XR thing, to be effective. Do they need a warehouse? Like, what's up with that?
Not at all. And it's a great point that you raised, which is what are the minimum requirements? And the answer is that it depends on what you're trying to train, is what I would say. Certainly, you can use the system in a shoebox. You could use the system seated if you want, but I don't think that's the best way to use it, nor is it really going to shine as a technology when it's used in a really, really confined space. I would say put it in the context of where would you do dry fire? That's probably where this is going to be really good. So you do it like in your office, in a classroom, maybe on the range. There's lots of places you can use the system. It's about where does it work best. So that warehouse scene is excellent because we basically turn off all the boundaries and then just set markers to know where those pillars were. And so what you're seeing there, some people are like, oh, if you look on Will Petty's and Centrifuge's pages, you'll see a whole bunch of comments about they're going to run into a pole. The thing is, they were actually completely in VR the whole time. And it's not that they saw the poles, it's that we made the scenario around those poles. And so they were never going to run into them because they were accurately running within an environment that was accurately mapped out. So what's kind of neat is you can go as big or as small as you need to. But if you have the space and ability to do it, you know, the world is your oyster. Like you could do 100-meter, as you saw, 100-meter sprints, or you could just work one mini drill, which is a threshold because all you have is a 10 by 10 rim.
All right. So I'm going to play a quick clip all about the space needed here. And then I'm going to jump right into the final thing that we're going to talk about, which is where this technology stacks up against screen simulators. All right. So I'm going to play the space thing, and then we're going to go ahead and talk about screen sims. Okay. Here we go.
How to use the Mythos program. When using the Mythos program, you can create your own drills and scenarios or use existing templates. First, be mindful of your space and your goals in relation to them.
Turn around and walk backwards to the sound of my voice. Brian, he's got a gun. Gun.
If you want to work around a vehicle, having extra space is recommended, whereas working in a virtual building, which is larger than your training space, might be achievable without having the same footprint in reality.
Oh, okay. I changed my mind. We're not going to talk about space. That pretty much explains it all. And before we jump into the screen sim thing, I saw other virtual reality tactical training stuff where they're using controllers. They're using the actual Oculus Quest controller to run these scenarios, to run these drills. That's not cool, man. What have you done with the technology so that you bridge this gap between virtual and actual reality? Because those are real guns, yeah, that Will Petty and them were using.
Oh yeah. So there's a concept called physical validity. Physical validity is a psychology concept about what you're going to use in the real world, what tool you're going to use in the real world, and how you're training in order to make sure that you have the skills appropriate to that tool. So
physical validity.
Physical validity, yeah.
Okay,
so essentially, you won't have, if you're training with the Quest controllers or any controllers, and some of our competitors are using other headsets, and you can see pictures of police officers with controllers shooting people with controllers. There is no gun in the world that has the same form factor as any of these controllers. So the physical validity is extremely low. Like, compare the amount of actions that are the same and the size of what you're holding and the weight of what you're holding, and it's very, very low, right? So what we're trying to do is get as close as possible to reality. That's what simulation is all about. The best fake stuff, realist fake stuff, right? I'm sure you've heard that quote before. I think Tony Blauer said it first. The realist fake stuff we can come up with, right? And certainly controllers are not that. So what we did was we said, what can we build that will allow for you to use your firearm, your tool, but also use virtual reality enabled technology. So the first thing we did was work on a carbine. So we worked on a lower receiver that you can clip on and just snap onto an upper receiver and use the existing Quest hardware to track it. And so that's what you're seeing in the video there is Will's own upper and his partner's own upper receiver clipped onto our lower receiver with our proprietary tracker on top of it, communicating with the system.
I think that's really, really important that you can actually use the firearm that you use on duty, make it really, really safe, and use it in conjunction with this virtual technology. Physical validity?
Yeah, you got it.
I like that. Yeah, it's the way I refer to it is sort of far transfer and near transfer. Like whenever you're working attributes, the closer you can get to the thing you actually have to do, the more value that exercise is going to have in application, right? So essentially the same thing. And I can see where, I mean, even if you can have the most realistic scenarios and the best graphics, if you aren't manipulating the physical thing that you're going to be manipulating in application, that disconnect is huge. You might as well be holding an Xbox controller and say you're doing tactical training, playing Call of Duty. This is not this is not what this is.
We say the same thing about opposition, right? In martial arts and other things, we say the same thing about opposition. If you're training constantly without opposition, then you've only covered kind of half of the ground potentially, and you might be missing a big section of what's going to happen after that point.
Right. So, okay. How is this better than screen simulation? Because I've seen them. They can be really, really awesome. Real graphics. I mean, they're using high definition cameras, 3 screens that kind of give you that 180 field of view. Really, really good stuff there, right? Like, so how is VR really better? I think I know the answer, but I'm asking you anyway.
Yeah. So as somebody who used to work for the largest screen simulator company in the world, as somebody who used to operate, train people how to use it, maintain, install screen simulators for the military, I think I'm qualified to say that screen simulators had a purpose, right? They had a reason to be in the training arena, in the programs for law enforcement and military use. The thing is, the number one thing I would say is screen simulators haven't evolved in over 25 years. They haven't fundamentally changed. It's still a video played on a screen that you are interacting with basically nothing between you and no way for you to directly control what's happening on the screen. Very, very little input from the user will really have an output on the screen. The only input you can have is to shoot or not shoot. That's frankly it on almost every screen simulator out there. So that's the number one thing, is that if we talk about what we're actually training, there are ways you can use screen simulators to train. I'm not saying there aren't. There's a reason that they're in service, but it's actually fairly limited, and it has even more limited connotations because you can't move it. They're not portable. They're not built to be portable. You can't put it wherever you want. Any kind of light source, even a little bit of light through a window, it's not working. And it has no immersion beyond you trying to fake yourself into it. So like as an instructor, I would put through teams of people and try to get them to get stressed out or really feel like they're there, like they're in the scenario. And it was all construed, right? It was all constructed. The stress was external. It was just me with a clipboard marking them. Versus virtual reality, anybody who's done any kind of VR, you forget the real world exists very quickly. And that plank, that like plank VR experience, it just shows you like, can you get real fear out of VR? Yeah, you can.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that plank game. That really scared the crap out of me. Basically, guys, there's this virtual reality game just on the Oculus Quest where the whole game is just you take an elevator up really, really high, and the elevator opens to the side of the building, and there's just a plank there, and a misstep will cause you to fall. Even that, just I can intellectualize this isn't real, but VR just grips every bit of you against all odds of logic, because it shouldn't, right? I know that's not how a building look real life. I know I'm not feeling the wind. I'm not really on the 60th floor, but it just grips you, and it really does a great job of putting you in that moment. So in that respect, then, would virtual reality with the Chimera XR serve a purpose as far as, or which purpose does it serve better? In playing out drills or actual scenarios?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's important to define the difference. So the number one way that I've heard the difference being explained is the purpose of a drill is to build skills, right? And so we decide what are the trends.
The purpose of the drill is to build skills. Yeah, you cut out there.
Correct.
The purpose of the drill is to build skills. Okay.
Correct.
Go on.
The purpose of the drill is to build skills. We look at the trends in the data of what's happening out there that we need to work on, and then we derive from that data, hey, these are the skills that we need to address it, and we build drills in order to work on that. So that's what the drill side of the house looks like. The scenario side of the house says, okay, we have a very specific set of parameters. We have one person in a supermarket in daylight with 15 civilians, and it's an active killer situation. The person is actively hunting down people and shooting them. You arrive at this point with this amount of resources and start, right? So it's a very specific, contextualized, essentially almost like a historical event that you're recreating in order to give somebody the ability to show how not only how their skills work, but how their judgment and their decision making comes into play when you attack or you react to that scenario.
Right. All right. We're running out of time here, brother. So some other cool points that I personally know about the Chimera XR system that I think is really, really cool is the fact that you can network it. So two departments can work in tandem at two physically different locations, right? The ability to communicate, and also talk to us a little bit about after action reporting and what this technology can provide in terms of that.
Yeah, for sure. I got about 10 or so minutes left, so I'm happy to talk about this because it's important to know that technology has evolved, people, right? Like we don't have to continue using $400,000 obsolete systems. So I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this, follow.
For sure.
So yeah, so the reviewing side of it, let me start there. So there's no sense in training and working on all these drills if we can't accurately replay the events, show the events from different perspectives, and give people a way to analyze their performance, give instructors a way to get feedback. So we've built a comprehensive review structure, which is better than real life in some respects, because the thing is, in real life, we can't replay the scenario in a 3D format, right? So you can't replay the scenario in a 3D format, then you can't see it from my perspective exactly. I'll show you a video. Sure, you can see it on a video, but you can't go stand in the room where I was standing when you came through that door and started shooting. So the ability to do 3D review is amazing for VR. In terms of remote learning, we've already done a couple of different iterations where we've had people from Germany, the US, UK, and Canada in the same scenario or the same drills for an hour plus. And this is really great because the boundaries that hold people back, so think about like the smaller departments especially, they don't have the resources. They're not getting access to the Travis Haleys of the world, right? They're getting the best that they get. And so to be able to break down these barriers and have tier one operators and all kinds of incredible instructors now being able to communicate over the internet, but with physical tactics, I'd say it's definitely changing what's possible.
I think, you know what, and something just popped in my head, and that this could be a really great tool for instructors, right, to create their own drills and templates within the system. And then, I don't know, maybe this is something downstream. They create their specific drills and set their specific parameters, their qualification standards. And then maybe a department, instead of bringing that instructor in for, a 5-day course, they run through this program, right? Prime them. And then, oh man, there's just so many possibilities. All right. So Taylor, this is really interesting stuff, man. I imagine that things are going to improve like exponentially over time. Graphics are going to improve. Once more people get their hands on this, they're going to have suggestions, maybe specific suggestions based on the requirements of their unit. And so what's your life like these days? I mean, because I feel like this is still very much in its infancy. The entire industry is still in its infancy. If sci-fi movies have taught me anything, this is going to replace everything one day. So what's going on for you as a CEO of this company? What are you working on? Talk to us a little bit about that before you got to go.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm really excited about the future because, like you said, we are only at the beginning. I've been looking at virtual reality. I've been looking at virtual reality since 2017 as an option and saying, when does this become something that is viable? And we've had prototypes and testing. You've been to these tests and you've seen the tactical teams use other earlier prototypes.
Yeah.
And so it's really fun also to know that like we actually have made a difference today. Like I can say that our system is now in use with law enforcement. Our system is now providing benefits to people. And so where we go from here. I mean, there's so many ideas that come from inside the company, but also we have beta testers. So we've started a beta tester program about 5 weeks ago, where 25 cops and military have essentially agreed to test our system and give us their feedback. And so we constantly seek that out. And you've seen tests in Ottawa with with our buddies, Chris Mandigma, who's hosted amazing tests there. So we're constantly looking for that feedback.
Man, this is really, really important, because it's not like you're, a game development company where, all the input and inspirations are, in this closed loop. Like, you're actually deploying units to actual departments. Certain departments have actually purchased units to immediately integrate into their training. And on top of that, you're running a beta testing program so that there is this constant loop, because the needs of one department aren't going to exactly match the needs of another. So, oh man, this all sounds very exciting. I'm really looking forward to future developments of this project. Is there anything else that you want to leave our viewers with for the time being? Let's talk again about this. There's a lot of cool videos that are in the pipeline. But yeah, and any parting words, bro?
Yeah, I'd love to let everybody know that I'm personally traveling to the United States next week, actually, to travel all across the Eastern U.S. And if anybody who's watching this has an agency, a department, even an educational institution, like an accredited educational institution, and you want to have a test, a demonstration of our equipment, I will be happy to talk to you about stopping by. I'm going to be traveling through Virginia, Illinois, West Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama. It's a big trip. So if there's an agency that wants to see the system, we want to show it to you, because this is the future of training. It's the future of simulation, and it's 10 times less costly than your screen system.
Wait, this is 10 times less costly than those screen sims?
Yeah, I just dropped that in there a little bit. Yeah, it's not about money in the sense of, we're not trying to say this is cheaper. We're trying to say you can buy 10 of these for one of those. So which would you rather? Would you rather train 2 cops at a time, or 2 military personnel at a time, and never be able to move the system, never be able to give them any kind of actual work behind cover, work around underneath cover? Or, yeah, would you like that? Like, what would you prefer?
Right on. Very compelling arguments there, Taylor. Thank you very much for your time, brother. I really appreciate you, man. We'll talk again soon.
Yes, brother. I can't wait. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. First of all, sorry about the mic noise there. It seemed like he was outdoors in a condo or something. But very, very cool technology here. Look, if the last thing that he said, it was breaking up a little bit there, but one of the last things that he said, that he will be traveling, I think in the next week or two, all over the Eastern United States. So if you do have access to somebody who might be interested in wanting to see virtual technology purposed for tactical training for law enforcement and military, make sure to visit that website, chimeraxr.com. Get a hold of Taylor. Really interesting. First of all, really interesting guy. He's, as a military man himself. I've worked with Taylor under a number of capacities. I've played the bad guy in some of the live scenarios that he's run. I've filmed some of his content there, but even then, sometimes I get detached as the content creator, and sometimes I just need to step back and really, really examine the technology. So I was really happy that I was able to bring you that little bit of time to speak directly with the CEO, Taylor McCubbin of Chimera XR. I promise we will do another podcast. So if you have any questions, leave it in the comments below. I'm going to go talk to Taylor in just a little bit and just make sure that he gets to them. I think all of your questions, all of the questions that you guys posted, absolutely valid. I'm glad that, he's not pushing this as like the replacement for live fire or NLTA. He's proposing this as a valid supplement in many ways to those tried and tested training methods. So guys, thank you guys very much. If you like this sort of stuff, I'm going to clean it up a little bit. This was a little bit rushed. I've got orchids in the background, like I got to, wait a minute. There we go. Yeah, I'll work on this. I'll work on the podcast format. In the meantime, just consider it like a test as I continue to evolve this presentation, getting better cameras, better lighting. But and again, I apologize for some of the audio issues that we had. I just needed to get this out there. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, I would really, really appreciate it if you smashed up the like button, because that kind of just lets YouTube algorithm know that you're down with his content. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, that's the thing that I really, really appreciate. It takes a lot of work to get these subscribers up to where they are. And I just want to say, for everyone who already has subscribed, I just want to say thank you guys very much. So I'm going to leave you with one more video before I sign off. But for now, thank you guys. Thank you guys very much. My name is GN. And I'm going to sign out now. I'll leave you guys with a video. Thank you guys. Bye.
Yeah, that works. Now, I can't see his car or his head.
Walk your back. Yeah, walk it. So that is the center point.
Parking lot on your left. You got it.
They're long.
Ryan has got a gun. Gun. My side. I'm up. They're my side. All right, call it in.